Welcome or welcome back to week 3 of diving into the artist's way and keeping a video journal of my experience doing this for the second time around. The first time I didn't record any videos, I just did my morning pages and followed the tasks, but now I want to utilize this time to do a weekly check-in, just see how things are going. This week was such a whirlwind. I had a couple days where I was just spiraling. I'm like, what am I doing with my life? Why aren't things happening? I just felt like I was waiting for something to change, and although I felt ready to embrace change, I just felt stuck. I worked through those days, I pushed through, I got through it. I had to kind of battle my brain and just self-doubts that I was having. I felt a lack of confidence, and oh my gosh, I cannot believe how things have shifted through the course of this week. It's insane. So I started the week not knowing if I was going to get this new job or not. And I think I was experiencing a lot of these low feelings because I really wanted the job, to be honest. The interviews went great. I loved getting to know the people in the company. I felt very aligned with the service that they're offering, and I felt like I would be a great addition to the team. I got an offer, so I am employed. I am going to be working for this company. I don't want to share too many details yet, but my official start date is coming up very soon, in about a week. It'll be the first time in 3 years that I've had a job that I am employed and working. It is remote, like I said last week, so I'll still have a good work-life balance, but I think it'll be so good for my mental health to have the stability of working with a team, of being in a more collaborative environment, and just being able to problem solve, come up with solutions, and work with clients. So that was kind of one big thing that happened this week. The other big thing that I am so excited about is a big childhood dream of mine came true. I got a letter in the mail the day after I wrote in my journal I would be interested in pursuing modeling and acting. Again, I haven't done it since I was little. I haven't modeled at all since I've been an adult. And I really didn't do that much modeling as a kid, but there were opportunities that I didn't take as a kid. And for acting, I always loved acting as a kid. I participated in musicals, and it was always a dream of mine to get more involved with that industry. I'm rambling a bit because I'm so excited that I got this letter. I don't know how many details I want to share quite yet, but I basically was selected to participate in, I don't want to say a competition, but just a way to represent the state of Idaho. And I am so excited. I feel like I've been living here for 13 years now. This has become a home base for me. I've gotten involved in and around the community, promoting and hosting events, and I've done community service within the city of Boise, and I just love it here, and I am so excited for this opportunity. I'm going to be going to a training to kind of prep for walking on the stage, and I'm also going to be practicing interviewing, as well as, what's the other part? I need to find dresses and shoes and earrings, and I need to perfect my makeup routine. And then I also am having my good friend take photos for me because I need new headshots, and I want to announce what this actually is in a more formal way than just like this, but this is kind of a sneak peek. And I can't believe it. Like, it's like you can go one day from being like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I know the goals I have. I know where I want to be going. Why am I not there yet? And like that, it can all change. And the difference, I think, between things changing and things not changing is how much do you believe in yourself. And sometimes I get to a point where I'm like, I believe in myself and what I'm doing so strongly. Why aren't things changing? And then weeks like this, I'm reminded, okay, I am in the right direction. I am pursuing the right goals. I know where I want to be going, and things are falling into place. Oh my goodness. So let's dive into the book. This week was about recovering a sense of identity. I'll read the little spiel on the right. It says, this week addresses self-definition as a major component of creative recovery. You may find yourself drawing new boundaries and staking out new territories as your personal needs, desires, and interests announce themselves. The essays and tools are aimed at moving you into your personal identity, a self-defined you. And I think the biggest piece of this was when you feel confident in yourself, you can put in place clearer boundaries. So in the beginning, it talks about the idea of going sane. So getting really in touch with yourself and gaining strength to kind of combat those self-doubts that come up for you. It also talks about kind of like those self-doubts come in the form of attacks, and that can be either coming from you or coming from outside sources. And affirmations are a great way to kind of get your mind out of that space and into a more positive place. Then it talks about just protecting your peace, surrounding yourself with the right people that are going to uplift and support you. That is very, very important. There's people that might look at you and see what you're doing and say, oh, I could do that better than them, but they aren't actually doing anything. They're just judging. So pay no mind at the end of the day. As you kind of go on this journey, you will find people that support and uplift you and encourage you and want to support you on this path. So the people that are going to hate don't matter. Period. Also, like, most people are okay with being blocked. Like, it is hard to follow your dreams, go after the things you want to go after. That is scary, and that requires a certain level of confidence that not everyone wants to participate in or put the time and effort into developing that skill. And that's okay. That is a them problem, not a you problem. And it gave a good word for that. The word was martyrdom, which is willingly suffering for a deep-rooted cause. Willingly suffering. I know I do that to myself sometimes where, like, you know, like even going to the gym. I haven't been going to the gym as much lately because it hasn't been fun for me. But also you have to remind yourself that fitness isn't always fun. It's the reward of going and feeling healthy and good afterwards. Sometimes you gotta do the hard thing to feel the pleasure that's derived from doing that, if that makes sense. The book talks about just nurturing yourself and building that relationship with yourself, having a comfortable faith, and becoming a creative channel to your ideas. So taking the things that are up here and bringing them to life. I don't want to get too much into this part, but it brings up crazy makers. So people that just create unnecessary, like, drama, people that are kind of like fixer-uppers that, only call you when they need something, or kind of treat people like the supporting cast in their movie instead of considering everyone's like needs and agendas and schedules and things like that. So it's important to gain an awareness. Am I a crazy maker? Do I have these traits, and how can I work on being a better friend and a better partner and a better daughter or son or a better student or a better employee? Because, if you don't think you're the problem, you are the problem type of thing. I always say that, and like, I'm not perfect, but I do try and be aware of what energy I'm putting out there. It gives a few ways to find out if someone is a crazy maker. So they don't stick to plans, they don't follow schedules, they expect special treatment from people, they discount your reality, so not very understanding, they spend your time and money, probably frivolously, and then talks about triangulation, so they set people up in your life to cause conflict. They blame everyone for their problems. They, going back to the trauma thing, like to create drama in other people's lives but don't take responsibility. This is a really heavy topic, and I think everyone knows someone like this. Everyone has experienced this. It can be really hard to address this and put a label on it, especially if it's somebody that you love and care deeply about. It's not an easy thing to talk about. And even me sitting here right now talking about this makes me uncomfortable, because I have had experiences with friends where I love them and I want to support them, but they don't have the capacity to support me. So you got to move on. You got to work through it. And, if you love them, you let them go type of situation. Like, it's not your job to fix other people. It's your job to be responsible for yourself so that you can be a better friend, partner, daughter, etc. They enjoy chaos. They deny that they're crazy makers, and they will probably choose to remain blocked in their creativity. That was a heavy subject, so let's just take a breather, digest that information, and when I'm watching this back in the future, I think because it is hard to talk about, it's something that is important to talk about and be aware of. This part resonated so heavily with me because I do pray, I do ask God to help me, I do manifest things, and sometimes God gives me the gift that I'm asking for, and I'm skeptical. I don't know what to do with it. I don't believe that I deserve it, that it belongs to me, even though I literally asked for it. I get that doubt in my head that's like, well, do I? I don't know, is it meant for me? Is this going to be a problem in the future? For example, this job that I got kind of fell into my lap, and all the pieces have been coming together. And during this process, I've had skepticism of is this the right thing? But literally last week, 2 weeks ago, I was praying to God, I would love to have more stability in my life. Sometimes we get the things we ask for and we get scared of accepting them. So don't do that. Don't get scared. Don't get scared. Learn to accept your blessings, because, and not to sound too woo-woo, but God wants you to be happy, the universe wants you to be happy, and the universe believes that you deserve abundance, period. Here's a little quote. To believe in God or in a guiding force because someone tells you is the height of stupidity. We are given senses to receive our information with. With our own eyes we see, and with our skin we feel. With our intelligence it is intended that we understand, but each person must puzzle it out for himself or herself. That's by Sophie Burnham. Another little vocab word that I wrote down was incandescent, which is emitting light as a result of being heated. And I kind of took that as, how do you carry yourself under pressure? When the heat gets turned up, do you fold or do you get stronger and keep going? I thought that was important. Our girl Julia also talks about, the reluctance to take seriously the possibility that the universe might be cooperating with our plans. And she gives like a metaphor of thinking of the mind as a room, thinking of different doors in the room, and behind those doors are all of our new ideas, new ways of thinking of things. And sometimes we have a tendency to like open the door a little bit, peer around and like, oh, this is too new, this is too scary, I'm not gonna do that. Close the door, keep on walking. But if you can practice kind of doing those scary things, opening the door a little bit more and more, it's almost like a muscle, like developing your creativity, growing and whatnot. Like you gotta practice doing it over and over again, and eventually it will become less scary. I want to like get through this kind of quickly. So let's see. Okay, we're almost there. We have like 3 more pages of the book, and then we'll talk about the tasks, and then I'll just check in generally, and we'll be done for this week. And we can go on to the next week. So this section was about attention. I really liked this part. She talks about her grandmother and how her grandfather was kind of a piece of work, but her grandmother was a wonderful lady who always wrote letters that kind of depicted the world in such a beautiful way. She would notice the way the light like shined on the flowers and the birds that liked the certain flowers. And she says survival lies in sanity, and sanity lies in paying attention. She says her grandmother stood the pain of her grandfather by standing knee-deep in the flow of life and paying close attention. The truth of a life really has little to do with its quality. The capacity for delight is the gift of paying attention. The reward for attention is always healing. Also, like, your reality can change when you start noticing things. I think there's a book like called like The Act of Noticing or something like that. I haven't read it, but it sounds interesting. It talks about past, present, future. So, you know, when the past is too painful to look at and the future is too scary, what you can do is focus on right now. And right now, you're always going to be okay. You're always going to be in a safe place, and it's always going to be bearable, because if it wasn't, you would be dead. Here's a quote. The noun of self becomes a verb. This flashpoint of creation in the present moment is where work and play merge. That was one of my interview questions, was, do you work before you play or do you play before you work? And I didn't know how to respond to that. Because if you know me, you know I tend to mix the two, and I think that's how life should be. My aunt always told me growing up, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And I live by that. And I think that is so, so, so true. It gives some rules of the road of like how to be a good artist, I guess. Show up for yourself, fill your cup, set small and gentle goals and meet them. You don't need to take over the world. You don't need to get all the way to point C right away. You just need to do something small every day. Look for guidance, courage, and humility. Remember that it is harder to be blocked than it is to do the work. Be alert. Choose good friends. Remember that God loves creativity. Do the work. Don't judge the work. Carly. That one is heavily for me. I need to sit with that for a sec, low-key. Like, why do we, like, I always expect, like, if I do it, it needs to be perfect. That is so not true, because how are you ever gonna figure it out if you're not making mistakes, right? You handle the quality. No, sorry. I misspoke. You handle the quantity, and God will handle the quantity. Oh my God. Sorry. I will take care of the quantity. You take care of the quality. Can you tell I struggle with that one because I can't even say it? So that was the first chapter. Week 2 of The Artist's Way. I guess not the first chapter, but like the first section of this chapter. And then we move into the tasks. So I like to spend the first like 3 days of the week reading, highlighting, taking notes. And then the rest of the week I reread stuff if I want to, but mainly I'm focusing on doing the tasks because I feel like that's most important. You can also skip to the end of the chapter, do the tasks throughout the week, and read. There's no rules. Like, just do it however you want. So some of the tasks I did were reading the basic principles that were on page 3 and seeing what kind of skepticism arises when I read those. You can check out my week 1 video if you want a refresher on what those are. I'm not going to reread them right now. I did these tasks the first time I did it. One was kind of doing an assessment of where your time goes throughout the week. Another is list 20 things you enjoy doing and use those as inspiration for your artist day, even and especially if they are things you haven't done in a while. Read your affirmations from week 1. Last week, we made a list of imaginary lives we would live if we could do anything. This week, we added 5 more to that list. Because why not? Another one I did was a life pie. So draw a circle, divide it into 6 pieces, and label them spirituality, exercise, play, work, friends. And the last section is romance and adventure. Ooh. And kind of just do a self-assessment of where you're at on the chunk of the pie. So if you're on the inside, it's not good. If you're on the outside, it's good. If you're in the middle, that's okay too. Just see where you're at. I also did this one. This one was 10 tiny changes. List 10 changes you would like to make for yourself. It can be something like get new sheets, refresh your makeup. And this, it says, dump my bitchy friend Alice. So if that's a problem for you, you could do that this week. It says another one was select one small thing and make it a goal for this week. Now do that item. So this week I did my morning pages all 7 days. And I think I only had one day where I really wasn't too excited to do them, but I literally just wrote, I'm not excited to do this today. And then it kind of snowballed and, I ended up doing the 3 pages. I think they work really well for me. It feels really good to get my thoughts out on paper first thing in the morning. I feel so much more clear-headed and organized, and I feel just overall happy because everything that I might be unhappy with or complaining about in my head is now on paper and I can move on from it. And nothing, I want to say like it's not that deep, but I feel like putting it on paper allows it to be deep, but it also allows you to work through it. Because I think it is that deep. I think something as small as like my coffee tasted like garbage this morning. Like, fine. If that's how you feel, write it down. Obviously, it's not going to like ruin your day, but it might just kind of like put you in a little mood. So if you can write it down, then you'll be okay. What surprised me about this week was just the amount of anxiety that I had. I think, like, sometimes I do get caught up in the day rather than looking at the bigger picture. And I definitely had a day this week where I did that, even though this ended up being such a big week and I got such great news about things that will be happening later this year. Did I do my artist date this week? I feel like I did a couple things for myself this week that could be considered an artist date, and I felt really good. Any other significant issues? No, I don't think so, but one good takeaway is that I find that when I ask questions to myself in my morning pages and I get an answer, it's usually some form of positive encouragement. So I do feel like the voice in the back of my head is erring more towards the side of positivity than lack or complaining, even though I would say I am working through somewhat of a scarcity mindset. I think that there's more of me that wants me to succeed than wants to focus on that, which I think is a good thing. So we're going to be doing week 3 now. Week 3 is about recovering a sense of power, and the first section is called anger. So I'm excited to dive into that. It says, this week may find you dealing with unaccustomed bursts of energy and sharp peaks of anger, joy, and grief. You're coming into your power as the illusory hold of your previously accepted limits is shaken. You will be asked to consciously experiment with spiritual open-mindedness. And I think with where I am right now, that's exactly what I need. I can't wait to dive into it. I am excited to be documenting this and just getting a chance to talk and verbally explain where I'm at instead of writing everything down all the time. And yeah, that's what I got for week 3. Week 2. Now we're doing week 3. And it's been fun and it's been hard sometimes, and I've definitely had low moments and I've definitely had high moments, but I also just feel pretty level. And I think if I get a super exciting piece of news, I'm going to be excited, but I'm also going to have that good baseline. I think if I'm feeling low, I let myself feel those feelings. I put them into a song. I channel them into the next song that I'm working on. That will be coming out very soon, that I am excited about. I feel like the best way to process your emotions is to get creative with them and make something out of them. And so that's what I'm doing there. And there's a lot of moving pieces and parts in my life right now, but I feel like it's coming together and making a bit more sense. So yeah, that was week 2. Bye.